is day 2 of Breakfast from Roth. My name is Bob Babbitt, and we again are brought to you by Nitro and by Flapjack, our next guest, who has been with Slowtwitch forever and ever and ever, Mr. Herbert Krabel. Herbert, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's actually been not forever and ever. It's only been since 2007, but it seems to be forever.
Well, you've been the face. You and Dan Effield have done an amazing job with Slowtwitch over the years, being a sounding board for the sport, and a place for people to go and get all sorts of information. But what was interesting to me yesterday is you guys don't look at yourselves as specifically just a triathlon site. You're doing cyclocross, you're covering Tour de France, you'll do interviews with elite runners. There's a sort of a family of endurance that you guys are covering.
Well, Slowtwitch is really an endurance muscle, right? So it's about endurance sports. So
right.
we talk about gravel racing bikes.
What the heck is gravel racing?
Well, it's a specific category that's becoming more and more popular, where it's basically a bike that kind of looks like a cyclocross bike or is related in that category with slight differences that allows fairly fat tires and that you can take on gravel roads, and people do fairly long races on these bikes.
Got it. So, Herbert, coming from the cycling industry and becoming a major journalist in this sport, for the sport of triathlon, it's still considered sort of a niche type of sport. When you come here to challenge Roth, and there's 5,500 people and 500 relay teams, to me this is sort of a model of how the sport can grow. What do you like about this event?
This race is truly amazing. I have not seen anything like this anywhere. I mean, like, if you go to Kona has its own mystique.
Yes, it does.
But it's a very different beast. It's really comparing apples and oranges. Uh-huh. You cannot compare them. And I often say, if you come here as an athlete, the feeling you get racing on this course is probably not going to be duplicated anywhere.
Because?
Just the mass of spectators and the whole passion of this whole community is just unparalleled.
Okay. And you've been here how many times to watch this race?
I've been here to watch it independent from any job.
Yes.
2 or 3 times, and I've been covering it for 4 years now.
Anything surprise you? I mean, we've seen such amazing. Chrissy Wellington go 8:18 and 8:19 and run 2:44 off the bike. This course is blistering, not so much blistering fast. I just think the fields are always so good. What is it that makes this course so fast, or makes the time so fast?
I'm really not sure what makes the race so fast. I think maybe it is the spectators that really drive the people on and on, because there's very few sections where you're going to be on the course where you don't see spectators, and so maybe that pushes people through. So the spectators drive them, and both in the bike and the run. When you look at everything that's here around us right now, it's not like you come in and there's a stadium. Everything is built, right? They have to basically take the farmland here and build this race course. When you watch this evolve over the week, what are your thoughts? Well, it's an interesting parallel actually to Eurobike versus Interbike.
Okay.
And the people at Interbike said, it's really not fair what the people at Eurobike are doing, because the city owns it, and so they're investing all their money back in it. That's why it's such a great event.
Right.
And I said to them before, well, who is stopping you from putting all your money back in the event and making it such a good event?
Yes.
No one is stopping you. And I think you can really tell that the family here is really investing everything into this race, and that shows.
Exactly. So as somebody who's been inside watching the sport of triathlon, what are your thoughts in terms of growing the sport? Because at the end of the day, the sport needs to grow. Every year you're going to have people who are doing the race. We have an aging group of athletes and people moving out, and then new people coming in. How do we get new people? How does the sport continue to thrive?
I've always believed that relays are the answer to the growth of the sport, and that every race, it doesn't matter what distance, whether it's a sprint race to a long distance race, you have to have relays and encourage relays. Encourage teams or corporate relays and do more of those.
And the value of a relay, one, you've got somebody who might just be doing the swim this year, but might become a triathlete over time.
It's great for everybody because, as I said, someone may be a biker, but someone else may be just a swimmer. And then typically, I think people who've done a relay are not satisfied with the relay experience. In fact, when I've asked people before, oh, did you do the race? And they said, no, I just did the relay.
and said, well, you participated.
You were part of it, yeah.
You're part of it. Well, it doesn't really feel like I did the event. And so you have someone who may have done an Olympic relay, and then next year maybe their goal is to do first a sprint and then an Olympic race by themselves, all on their own. And well, then if they were the swimmer, they're going to have to buy a bike and they're going to have to buy some running shoes.
Right.
And so it's really good for everybody all around.
For growing the sport, from my perspective, I think relays are a huge part of it, and I love the fact that you have over 500 relay teams here, which brings your numbers up to 5,500. Your relay people are not only involved, but now gives them a reason to buy merchandise, right? Because they're not a spectator; they've been involved. It's okay for them to buy a Challenge Roth polo shirt or whatever it happens to be. The other area that I see is the swim scares a lot of people in triathlon, right? Because when you jump into a body of water, it's cold, there's current, there's big fish, there's all sorts of things that can scare off someone who's not a swimmer. I like the idea of the pool triathlons to start with the 5K run and then a 10-mile bike and then a swim in a pool where it's warm, there's lifeguards, there's lane lines. And I see that those events without the pool swim, you have 200-300 people if it's just a duathlon. But that same event might have 1,200 people if they have the swim. Doesn't matter how long the swim is. People want to be triathletes because it's sexy. Do you see that there'll be more? I've seen an expansion in those events in Southern California. Do you see that happening in other places in the world?
Oh, in the southeast where I live, it's very, very popular. Pool triathlons are growing and growing. Plus, not everyone is near a body of water.
Exactly.
That's good for a race. And as you said, people are scared of the open water, and if you can basically stop at the end of each lane,
yes,
and take
relax.
a breather, relax
yes.
for a second. Obviously, this is maybe not what you want to do, but you have the option if you choose to, and it really brings in a group of people that otherwise would not even consider doing a triathlon.
Exactly. The other thing I see is you look at the number of people who are involved with marathon and half marathon now. I know just the Rock and Roll Series is probably over 1 million people doing those events. And to me, the orthopedic reality is most of those runners need to become cyclists at some point. How does triathlon attack that and go after those people who are already putting numbers on? That's low-hanging fruit. They're putting numbers on. They're doing a half marathon. How do we take them from doing a half marathon and get them to understand that they can swim, bike, and run less, and actually become better as a runner, a half marathoner, but also now become a triathlete?
Well, I've always said, people sometimes approach me about this whole Ironman topic or the long course distance topic and say, that is so distant and that's so far from something I could ever do. And I tell people, anyone in this room, I don't care what they look like, how old they are, how fat they are, how old they are, if they want to do it, if they have just the slightest inclination to do a race like this, they can get ready in 9 to 12 months to do a race and finish it.
Right. That's
it's
true.
It's not that difficult. I mean, it sounds much more.
It's dedication.
It's dedication, and a little bit of willpower. But if you think about a 17-hour window, that's a very, very long time to complete an event.
Right. Yeah. No, you can definitely get through it. And that is the attraction. People want to become an Ironman, and sometimes they sort of bypass the sprint, Olympic, and half, and all they think about is trying to get to that Ironman distance. How do we get people to understand that, you know what, you're a triathlete if you do something that takes an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours?
Well, I think there's a couple different groups of people. I think there's this bucket list group of people who just try to do a bucket list, whether it's climbing Mount McKinley and just saying they were on top and also checking off that box Ironman.
Yes.
And I think those people are probably very difficult to convert.
Yeah.
I think it's the people that are in general curious about new challenges. I think those are the people that are much easier to grab for any triathlon or any event.
You've been covering this sport for a number of years now. What are some of the moments that stick out to you in terms of performances you've seen? And it doesn't necessarily mean, Chrissy Wellington 8:18 and 2:44 marathon. It might be an age grouper who's trying to do their first ever triathlon or overcoming something. What are the moments that stand out to you from a journalistic perspective?
It really is actually the challenged athletes. I've had moments in Kona where a friend of mine asked me, how are you doing? How fit are you? And I said, I'm going to have a meniscus operation and I feel bad and I haven't been running as much. And then I see someone coming past me who has no legs and only one arm. And then you realize this man doesn't complain about his meniscus. In fact, he has no knees.
Yes.
And he's running. He's, in fact, doing Ironman Kona. I'm just spectating. What am I complaining about?
Right.
So those are the people who impress me the most.
The other thing that concerns me with our sport is my feeling is that we all it's important for the entire sport to work together to grow the sport, right? There's Ironman, there's Challenge, there's ITU, but the whole is greater than the parts. How do we all work together to grow the sport so that there's sort of the political infighting goes away a little bit?
Well, I'm sure the infighting comes from both sides to some degree. There's
All
always,
sides, sure.
when there's a fight, you can't ever just blame one person.
Nope.
But altogether, I think, if you want to have a supermarket, you need to have more than one product. And the same thing, if you want to have a category of events, you need to have competition. Otherwise, it's not a category. And so I think all these races and all these race promotion companies can live side by side. And it's kind of sad, in my view, that everyone is fighting so hard.
And to get past that, it just has to be, those guys, eventually people sitting down at a table and saying, how do we make this better?
That's wishful thinking on my side, and I hope it will happen eventually.
What are your thoughts on, from talking to athletes here, what are your thoughts on who's going to be a major player on Sunday in this race?
I think
Fields are really deep.
Fields is very, very deep. Luke McKenzie looks very, very good. Really, I haven't seen any Colanos yet, but he's always dangerous.
Yes, he is.
And I think the defending champion, Dirk Bockel, is definitely someone
Yeah.
to watch here.
Joe Gambles was with us yesterday, and he's like, it's great being under the radar. People aren't thinking about me at all, and he just won Boulder 70.3 for the fourth year in a row, broke the course record, and is feeling like, hey, I'm lighter than a lot of these guys. If it's a hot day, getting off the bike, I think I could be in good shape here.
Oh, yeah, man, we could go on and on. Joe
Yes.
Gambles is another person, clearly, who
Yep.
could factor in very well. And on the women's side, I think Rachel Choice is probably very hungry, coming back after she missed out last year. Then Caroline Steffen. We could basically go on and on through there's like at least
Yes.
4 or 5 people in each race that could
Michelle
easily have it.
Visterby.
Right.
You've got a great women's field, and it's always nice when you go to a race and there's not just. I'm sure you go to a lot of races where there's one major pro, right, and there's a lot of sort of support people. And in a race like this, a race like Kona, you've got a deep field where there really 5-6 people could win the race.
Yeah, I pretty much only go to
The races where the big boys and girls are.
which is typically Challenge Roth and then Kona. Yeah.
Okay. And so your pick here, do you have a pick, or is it too early to tell at this point? You haven't seen everybody yet.
I'm too chicken to pick.
Yeah, good. I love that. Herbert, thanks so much for everything you do with Slowtwitch.
No worries
I
at all.
really appreciate it. Give our best to our boy, Slowman.
That sounds good,
Dan
and thanks
Field.
for all you do.
All right, Herbert Krabel has been our guest from Slowtwitch. Again, we're brought to you by Nitro and Flapjack. Having a great time here at the 30th anniversary of Challenge Roth, and this is Breakfast from Roth. Rainer, take us out.